right, welcome back. This is the KNL Sports Huddle. I'm your host, Cage Kiplinger, joined as always by my co-host, Logan Hubert. We've got another good show for you here today as we're breaking down the NFC South division, as well as the SEC in college football. But how are we doing today, Logan?
Doing great. Yep. Football is near week 0, and college football starts
Week
Saturday.
0.
Uh, week 2 of preseason ends tonight, I
Yep.
believe. I believe there's one game tonight. I think it's nationally televised, though. And then, there's one more week of preseason, and then NFL regular season's about to begin. So all is soon to be well until week 1 when your
Yeah,
team
yeah,
gets blown out.
right. There's all the hope in the world for every team coming into the season, 0-0, and then that first bad loss happens in week 1, and you're done for, and season-long pain. But let's get into what missed
Yep.
the cut before we get to our division preview. First off, let's start with golf. BMW Championship last weekend. Scotty Scheffler does it again, winning the tournament and solidifying just an incredible year that he's had. He had that iconic chip on 17, which was just one of the coolest shots I've ever seen. The whole time you're not even being able to see the pin until like the last couple seconds when it looks like it's about to roll away from it, but it went right in and the crowd erupted, and wow, just what a weekend for Scotty Scheffler. The Ryder Cup team, at least those first 6 spots are set, and now it's all up to Keegan Bradley to figure out who's in, who's out, and if he's going to play. So it's going to be fun to see how that story unfolds for the Ryder Cup team. In baseball, we have Pete Alonso of the New York Mets breaking the home run record that was set by Darryl Strawberry on the all-time list. And then the Brewers, fun little nugget here, is they pulled off 14 straight to set their consecutive win record. But the bigger story for me was when they hit 12 straight and they won free burgers for the entire city of Milwaukee. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I've never heard of that before. I don't know how that works. Do the Brewers send out all the burgers to every home in Milwaukee in the metro area, or does every burger joint have to give somebody a free burger, and then how do you keep track of that? I don't know how that works, but I thought that was a pretty cool story. And then finally, in college football, NCAA laid down the law on Michigan. This has been an ongoing story for a couple of years now, ever since the sign stealing scandal for them. They end up facing more than $30 million in fines. Jim Harbaugh gets a 10-year show cause penalty. Connor Stallions an 8-year show cause penalty, and then Sharon Moore, who was already giving himself, I believe, a 3-game self suspension that he already implemented, and now he's getting suspended 1 additional game in the latest NCAA ruling. Any thoughts on those stories before we move on?
Yeah, I believe Scotty Scheffler now has enough Ryder Cup points where he should be able to divide himself up into 2. I believe if he divided himself up into 2, he'd just have enough Ryder Cup points to make the team for each pair of that. So I think he should be able to play twice in the Ryder Cup, like he should be in 2 different groups, and that would definitely help Team USA because I feel
Sure
like
would.
they're going to be. I feel like they're going to be lacking in the bottom 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Brewers win streak, that burger story is cool, but yeah, their win streak's pretty incredible. I know it came to an end yesterday. The Reds hit a walk-off to end it, but Brewers bounced back again today. They destroyed the Cubs, and it was amazing how many comebacks they had in that streak too, especially towards the end. Like a lot of people wrote them off, like they get down really big in the first few innings, and then somehow, some way, they'd find a way to force extra innings and then just win. So, yeah, we'll see if it carries over into October. That's kind of been the issue with this team in the past, that they've usually been decent in the regular season, but they can't find much success in the postseason. So, hopefully, for their sake, it changes for them.
Yeah, it's always the Brewers just always hang around. It doesn't matter what their roster looks like. They always find a strength in one part of their roster or another, and they always find their way to the playoffs. But like you said, it's got to continue on if they want to be looked at as one of the better teams in the league. But let's move on to the NFL, man. We got another division here. It's the NFC South. I'll admit when we were planning this and we were getting closer and closer to this week, I was like, man, the NFC South, I mean, does it really matter? Because even if we're going to probably get one division winner out of this NFC South,
One playoff team.
one playoff. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
one
yeah.
playoff team out of this division, and then I don't even think the Buccaneers have the best shot at it, in my opinion, and I don't really see them being able to stand up against the top dogs in the NFC. But I think this division has definitely seen better days. Long gone are the days of the Drew Brees New Orleans Saints, the Matt Ryan, Julio Jones Falcons, even the Cam Newton Panthers who made it to the Super Bowl, and then the Buccaneers obviously have stayed consistently good since Brady left, but obviously it's not the same team that won the Super Bowl when Brady was there. But what's your thoughts on this division coming into this year? The more I looked into it, the more I could see the storylines, and I got actually a little more excited coming into this show.
Yeah, the middle of 2010s, obviously the Buccaneers were struggling a little bit because that's when they drafted Winston with the first overall pick. But yeah, you had, like I said, Drew Brees, the Matt Ryan Falcons were probably at their peak during that time, and then obviously the Cam Newton Panthers were at their peak in the 2015 era. So yeah, that was now 10 years ago. And I mean, look at these teams now. There's some fun offenses for sure, fun skill players to watch. By far, collectively, the worst defensive division in the NFL. None of these defenses are very good, which we will talk about when we go through them individually. But there's still exciting parts with three of these teams, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who finished 10-7 last year. I think the biggest thing when you talk about the Buccaneers is Baker Mayfield at quarterback and his resurgence to being the type of player that we'd hoped he'd be coming out of college. It took 4 teams and 7 seasons for Baker to really figure it out after being drafted in 2018 by the Cleveland Browns. And he's developed really into one of the league's best QBs. He's a top 10 QB for sure. He's also a great fantasy football QB. Kept me in the running for most of the year last year when he wasn't even my top pick at QB. So ended up picking Dak Prescott. And that him going down, I needed a savior, and Baker was there for me. But he has solidified himself as face of the franchise for this team. In just 2 seasons since replacing Tom Brady under center, he's got 2 NFC South titles. He's also got 69 touchdown passes, which are the most in the NFL across two seasons. He's also made head coaches out of a couple of coordinators who only worked with him for 1 season. Talk about Dave Canales now in Carolina and Liam Cohen now getting the head coaching position in Jacksonville. But he's definitely recreated himself and been able to have a lot of success in the NFL. Led the NFL in touchdown passes with 41 led the NFC in touchdown passes with 41. Only Joe Burrow threw more. And Baker also completed 71.4% of his throws. And I gotta say, I love this wide receiver room with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, and now their first round pick from Ohio State being Emeka Egbuka. I mean, I'd give them the best chance to win this division, obviously, just from recent years and having success, but also what we're seeing from Baker, and now he's got just this loaded wide receiver room.
Yeah, if you recall, so yeah, they went 10-7 last year. They started off 4-6, but it was kind of a weird 4-6 where they won at Detroit during that time. I think they beat Philadelphia too, and they kind of went on a weird losing streak, but they still, like, they lost to Kansas City and San Francisco before San Francisco fell apart, but close games. And then the back half of their schedule really opened up. Like, it was much easier than the first half, and they took advantage of that. They went 6-1 after their bye week. Obviously got to 10-7, and didn't make it to the divisional round like they did the previous year, but Jaden Daniels just did what he did, and that was a good one of the better playoff games of the year that doesn't get talked about enough. I thought that was a pretty entertaining game, that Commanders and Buccaneers playoff game. But I think this offense, especially adding Ibuka from Ohio State, it's borderline Super Bowl caliber now. Um, Definitely conference champion caliber. I mean, the running backs are good too. Bucky Irving's really flashed in his rookie year, and then Rashad White's pretty good running back too to have because he showed some promise the year before that. And yeah, Baker's had he's finally played like he did that one year in Cleveland, that one successful year he had in Cleveland, and then everyone assumed he was a bust after he started sucking. But then, no, he's found some sustained success here in Tampa, and if this team is obviously not in the top tier, like Philly and Detroit, but they're not far. They always play those teams close. They play the teams close, and I think it's their defense. They have some good names on their defense, like their run defense is pretty good. Vita Vea is one of my favorite interior guys to watch in the league. But their secondary was not very good last year. I believe they gave up the fourth most passing yards last year, and they lost. They did lose Antoine Winfield, who's a really good player last year. I think that was a big impact. But they addressed it in the draft. After they drafted Ibuka in the first round, they added to their secondary in the second and third rounds. So if their defense shows improvement, I think they're capable of making it to the NFC title game. If especially if like another team slipped up, because like I said, they're not that far behind. They probably end up being the worst division winner in the NFC, but it's not that big of a gap between them and everyone else, in my opinion.
What do you think of Todd Bowles as a head coach in this league? He's a bit on the quieter side. He's not a big rah-rah coach, and I don't even really see him as this great schemer offensively or defensively. What is he?
Yeah, he wins. Back to his New York Jets days, obviously that team hasn't been to the playoffs since 2010. But if you look, their most successful year, I believe they went 10-6 during that long stretch in the playoffs. He was their coach when they went 10-6, and usually that's enough to get you in the playoffs. But unfortunately, that was one of those years where it wasn't. So, so if he's able to post that kind of record with that dysfunctional of an organization, I think he deserves more credit. But yeah, I don't know. That is a good point. He's a defensive guy. He did inherit this team with Bruce Arians. Obviously, Baker came in, but he inherited most of this roster. But they haven't nosedived at all. Like they've stayed afloat. That last year with Brady wasn't very good. They still won the division, but they've been better than that even after Brady. So a lot of that does go to the players, but I think Todd Bowles does deserve some credit for keeping the ship afloat.
Yeah. I'm seeing this line for them at 9.5. It's a perfect line for a division that you could win the division with 9 wins. What are you feeling here?
They're pretty much the exact same team as last year, so I'm going to go over, and they're going to be about 10-7 again. It helps that their division's weak. Strength of schedule, 18th.
What's the NFC South teams looking like for strength of schedule?
Yeah, Buccaneers obviously have the hardest because they were division winners last year, but it's only 18th. Falcons, 19th. Falcons 20th, Panthers 28th, and Saints have the second easiest schedule in the NFL. So it helps when you play each other, but they play the AFC East. So Buffalo was the only team with a winning record from that division, and the NFC West, where no one dominated. Like pretty much all those teams were kind of around 500. Rams obviously were a little higher, and 49ers were a little lower. So no one, not like the NFC North. So it shapes up pretty well. So that's kind of why I'm leaning over for the Buccaneers. Just not too much difference. If anything, their differences from last year are better improvements. So I think 10-7 is where they'll be. So I'm taking the over 9.5.
Well, you convinced me. I think I was originally on the under just because I it's hard to trust the team. You know, from this division, you never know what it's going to end up in. Like I said, 9 wins could win you the division and be fine. But I like it. I like going over on the 9.5, and we'll see what happens this season for them.
I don't know if anyone said that, but yeah, they've won this division 4 straight years, so they're looking for a 5-peat.
Yeah.
So I mean, they've kept the same formula, and as long as you're not messing with winning, I think it's sustainable. So yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think this division I mean, like I mentioned that it was probably one of the best divisions in football at one point, and now it's like it's hard to name some of the coaches. Like you kind of forget about some of them. But yeah, let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons, who finished last season at 8-9, and the biggest story, again, we're going to head to the quarterback position and what happened with Kirk Cousins last season was a pretty hot start. Had some pretty fun games against Tampa Bay, against the Eagles.
They started 6-3.
It was incredible.
They swept Tampa in the end.
Those Tampa games against Atlanta were a couple of the best games of the schedule the whole year. And then all of a sudden it just collapsed on Kirk Cousins. He just started playing his worst football we've ever seen him play. And now the keys are being handed over to Michael Penix. And the hope is that with him being a little more under the radar, I feel like, as opposed to the other 5 guys drafted in that 2024 NFL draft, the other 5 QBs, hoping that maybe he can find some success with Atlanta and be maybe a bridge between Michael Vick and Matt Ryan to be kind of a steady in between of those 2 guys. Can he be the next one for Atlanta?
Well, 25 years old. This is essentially his rookie year. I know he got some playing time at the end of last year, but it wasn't too much. Injury history is the biggest gripe with him. His time at Indiana filled with injuries. So yeah, you do wonder about that. Makes you wonder what they will do with Kirk Cousins, because given Penix's injury history, Cousins might likely see the field if he's kept on the roster, but who knows how passionate he'll be, because I think he's kind of wanted out of there. But this team's similar to Tampa, where you look at their offense and you see some good names on there, and you're not as good as Tampa, but still pretty good. Playoff caliber, I would say. Obviously, Bijan Robinson really broke out last year. Solid running back. Drake London, really feel like underappreciated wide receiver.
Yeah.
And then if Penix is dynamic, I mean, yeah, this could be a really fun offense to watch. Once again, like Tampa, but I think this is worse. Their defense is just full of question marks. Got to give credit to them. They spent 2 first-round picks on edge rushers.
Yes.
I love that. Drafted Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. Odds are one of them are going to hit. If both of them fail, that just sucks as a Falcons fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, odds are one of them are going to hit, and just having one edge rusher that makes a difference is huge, especially for a team. I feel like my entire life the Falcons have had a bad defense. Like
they've never had an edge rusher.
Yeah, they never had an edge rusher ever. They'll have a guy or two like John Abraham, I remember him,
or like Babineau
guys like that, and they still have decent guys like their sec. I feel like their sec. If their pass rush does step up, this defense could be decent, because I think their secondary's all right with Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell.
Yeah.
Issue is if there's nobody coming off the edge to pressure the quarterback, then the secondary is going to suffer no matter how many names you have back there. So, yeah, if it's more of the same and neither of those 2 guys develop this year, this might be another 8-9 year. But if they're going to break out and seriously push Tampa to win this division, which I think is possible, they're going to need those guys to step up. Plus, obviously, Penix needs to play like he needs to pull like a Bo Nix. I feel like he's a veteran. I know this is kind of a juxtaposition, I guess, is the or oxymoron, whatever you say it. A veteran rookie, because that's basically what he is. Oxymoron's the word I was thinking of. Because most of these rookie quarterbacks, 22, 23, coming into the league. He's 20, just turned 25 in May.
Yeah,
but if he could pull like the game manager, what Bo Nix did his rookie year, I feel like at least do that. Then this team could be, like I said, could be a playoff team.
Yeah, I like it. It'll be interesting to see his progression, given the fact that he's one of the older rookies. Rookies from last year. You mentioned obviously the defense with the edge rushers being drafted. I love the fact that they got those guys and the fact that they picked up Jeff Ulbrich as defensive coordinator, who got a lot of attention as being an awful head coach in New York, but what he did with that defense was very impressive. And you give him those kind of edge rushers, I think he can do a lot with that. Him and Morris were with the Falcons during the Dan Quinn era, and so they've worked together before. So I think that'll be very cohesive. And I think there's high hopes in Atlanta for this team, and I think it all kind of rests on Penix's shoulders, whether he can get it done or not. What are you seeing for the line for this team? I didn't even check it.
I think I saw 7.5, but that may have changed. I view this team as anywhere from 7 to 10 wins, no less, no more. So if it is 7.5, I would go over because there's more. There's a higher chance because 8, 9, and 10 are obviously bigger than 7.5. So I would go over. But like I said, if their defense doesn't improve at all, this is going to be the same team. I feel like 7 and 10, 7, 10, 8, and 9, more leaning towards 7 and 10. But I think these edge rush, these new guys are going to show up some. So I will go over. I would see them I would say about 9 and 8. It's weird. This team has won at least. There's been like no postseason success. No one's really cared about them towards the end of the year, but they've won at least 7 games in 4 straight years. Just the perfect definition of mediocrity, especially the Arthur Smith era, and obviously last year. So, I don't see them moving away from that. And I'll take the over 7.5 if that's what the line is at. 8.5, I'd be sweating more. I wouldn't. I just stay away from that. But at 7.5, I would take the over.
Yeah, 7.5. You're not getting a ton of value on the over. It's minus 140. But I would bet on that. Going over 8.5 would be plus 115. That'd be a tougher one to swallow. That would be more of a stay away. But at 7.5, I think I'd be banking on this defense improving and the offense being similar to last year, and it not having too much of an improvement. But with the defense the way it is, the new additions, I'd be betting on that and picking the over for that one.
I will say one thing I hate. I've said this before. Actually, they have 2 things I hate. One, they can't really help, but the other, I feel like the NFL shouldn't allow it, is they have an early bye. They have a week 5 bye, which I don't like. I don't like when teams have that.
The Eagles
but you got to spread it out. I understand why that happens, but they also play a game in Germany, and then they do not have their bye after that. They come home and play a divisional game against Carolina. I hate that. That's stupid. I feel like if you travel all that time, you have a rest week the week after, especially since a lot of teams do. Like, I don't know, play it fair for all the teams, just to have your bye week after the international trip, but they do not. So we'll see if they have any hangover there in week 10 and 11, I believe, is that. So
All right, let's move on to Carolina. Finished last season at 5-12, and we finally saw a glimpse of the potential that Bryce Young has in this league. And those last few games when Andy Dalton had gone down with the injury after the car accident. But before that, it was abysmal. Seeing Bryce on the field, he just looked small, and the way he played made him look smaller. And it seemed like he was about to lose the job completely. He got benched by head coach Dave Canales in favor of Andy Dalton, who is a veteran in this league and a proven winner with the Cincinnati Bengals. But coming into this season, after those last few games, we finally got to see kind of what all the hype was around Bryce Young. He never looked back, passing for 15 touchdowns, and he basically kept the Panthers competitive in games in the back half of the season. And so coming into this year, which sample size are we going to get? Are we going to get what we saw at the end of last year? Or are we going to get what we saw up until then with Bryce Young?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So yeah, he started off terrible. They put Dalton in, they won a game, and that does usually happen because the defense is prepared, opposing defense is prepared. Then obviously that did not work out. Dalton played pretty terrible from there on out. They did not win anymore with Dalton starting quarterback. And then when Bryce Young came back, like you said, they were more competitive. They actually finished 4-6, semi-respectable compared to where they were before. Right. And a few of those losses were pretty close against good teams, so definitely more competitive. Good for Bryce Young because his career had gotten off to a disastrous start. This offense, I feel like, could be real sneaky good if we get the back half of 2024 Bryce Young for 2025. Obviously, if you followed the NFL draft, you know they took the McMillan from Arizona with their number 7 overall pick. He has big shoes to fill because their skill positions really weren't the strength of this team. Chuba Hubbard's a good running back, but other than that, Adam Thielen and Xavier Legette aren't really scary opposing wide receivers. But if McMillan turns out to be a dog and he's a wide receiver 1, then that could really help Bryce Young. And like you mentioned earlier, Dave Canales came from Tampa Bay, helped Baker Mayfield resurrect his career, supposed to be an offensive guy.
Yeah.
So we could really see this offense improve, I feel like. There's a real chance with that. The issue is I don't really know how much their offense could improve a lot, but this was the worst defense in the league last year, and they really did nothing to address it. They're the only team that allowed 30 points per game, over 30 points per game last year, and the only team that allowed over 400 yards by the offense last year. And, they didn't really address too much for it. I like Derek Brown as a nose tackle, and J.C. Horn's a good player, but other than that, there's really no names on here. Not many names you'd recognize on this Panthers defense. And I even with an offensive coach, like I said, that helps the offense, but I don't think that's going to help the defense at all. And Bryce Young would have to improve a lot for them to have a winning record, I feel like, because with how bad this defense is, they're going to need to win shootouts. And there's been no sign that there will be that great of improvements where this team can win shootouts like the Bengals, for example.
Yeah, that would have to be a huge and almost unrealistic jump for Bryce Young to take season over season coming into this year. So, the defense, which is tough to say about Carolina when they used to have one of the best defenses led by the linebacker Luke Kuechly. To say that their defense now is the way it looks like. You mentioned Xavier Legette, and that's someone I feel like is if there's anybody outside of like Bryce Young or maybe Dave Canales that is on the hot seat, it's Xavier Legette, which Carolina has basically proven in this offseason that they don't trust him as a wide receiver 1. They sniffed around for guys like DK Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, and free agency. Ended up selecting, as you mentioned, Teteroa McMillan, and it just kind of screams the fact that if he doesn't improve, and it could not be it might not be looking good for Legette with the Panthers going forward. I'm seeing the line at 6.5.
Yes, that's what I had too. This defense is too awful for me to go over that. I do think they'll get to 6 wins, and I think it'll be a prettier fight. Like last year, it was an ugly 5-12, except for the last part of the season. I feel like they'll be 6-11. It'll be a little more pleasant to watch, I would say.
Right. Maybe some
And
wins spread out this time rather than
yeah, then
at
the
the end
real
of the year.
question is, what are they going to do at quarterback? Um, I mean, because it's tough because he might play better, but he might not get the wins just because, I mean, this defense is just
So
abysmal.
if he
So
improves,
then how do you evaluate that is
right.
the question. Uh, do you just go all in on addressing the defense and hope that was the issue, or did like Bryce Young reach his ceiling and he's really not going to get much better? So might as well just start off with a full rebuild. And when you start off with a full rebuild, the first thing you really do is quarterbacks.
Right. There's a few teams in this league that have some young quarterbacks, like the Giants with Jackson Dart, the Browns with Sanders, who impressed in preseason, and then obviously Carolina with Bryce Young, who, you know, do they build around these guys or do they address defense? This draft coming up next year is going to be a good quarterback draft, unlike this past draft. So if he only improves marginally and they only get to 5-6 wins again, but he looks better than he did before, I mean, is that enough to prove that he should be the starting quarterback going forward?
This is an impatient owner too, if you recall. So Dave Tepper. So this fan base and team is hungry for any success, though they've not won more than 7 games since 2017. So yeah, it's been pretty miserable times in Charlotte here recently, and I feel like their ceiling is 7 wins, so that would be the over, but I don't think they reached that full
Yeah,
ceiling. That's why I'm going with
yeah.
the under.
For me, this is my stay away pick as far as the line. I'd love to be optimistic and pick them for the over. Um, but I also don't want to pick them on the under because I know the schedule for the NFC South teams is favorable this year. So it's a tough one to go, and you don't know what Bryce Young you're going to get this season. So for me, it's a stay away pick. Finally, we got the New Orleans Saints, and this team. I mean, I can't even like begin with anybody on the roster. I think it begins and ends with Kellen Moore at head coach. I think with this team, Kellen Moore has his work cut out for him. And if I were him, I probably wouldn't have left Philadelphia. That was a cush offensive coordinator job with them. But coming into this season, it's to me, this is definitely the fourth place team in the NFC South. This team passed on Jackson Dart and Shedeur Sanders, Shedeur multiple times in the draft as he fell to the 5th round. Ended up picking Tyler Shuck from Louisville in the 2nd round. And out of all the guys, all the higher quarterback draft picks in this draft, that this one's like the weirdest one, maybe the most under the radar one, and I just don't see this really panning out for them. And they're definitely, to me, they're the most likely to pick another quarterback in next year's draft. What do you see with this team? Because I'm at a loss for words with the Saints.
Yeah, talk about veteran rookies. I mean, Tyler Schaug, 26 years old. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty dang old for a rookie. I mean, when you're having a QB battle between him and Spencer Rattler, who was really bad in the games he played last
Yeah.
year, it's things aren't looking great. So yeah, they went 5-12 last year. As you recall, they started 2-0, and they just absolutely destroyed Carolina, which I was thinking, yeah, that doesn't really mean much. But then they went into Jerry World and destroyed the Cowboys, which I know the Cowboys didn't turn out to be very good, but that was still pretty impressive. How they just swapped them, like absolutely smacked them in the butt. And then they lost a couple, but it was competitive games to good teams. So like this team hasn't really fallen off too bad. But then the losses just started piling up. They obviously finished the year 3-12. Oddly enough, so Derek Carr retired in the offseason, obviously he's no longer on the Saints. But he went, I mean, the perfect Derek Carr, most average quarterback in the history in the NFL. So obviously his time in the Saints last year, he went 5-5. Games he started, they went 5-5, and then they went 0-7 in every other game and looked pretty bad in those games as well. So there's no one like if an opposing team scouted this Saints team, there's like no one that scares you. There are guys that would used to scare you, like
Cam Jordan.
Cam Jordan and Demario Davis, who was always a really underrated defensive player in my opinion, but they're both in their mid-30s now.
Yeah.
Chase Young's been a disappointment. He only had 5 sacks last year with them. On offense, Kamara doesn't really move the needle anymore. And Olave would be he's in that category for me where he'd be a really good wide receiver too on another team, but he just doesn't frighten anybody.
He's also like the Tua of wide receivers. He's the Tua of wide receivers with his concussion history. So
yeah. I do like Shaheed though, Shaheed
yes.
as a deep threat. He was fun to watch last year, but yeah, I mean, I just don't see this team having much success, and it doesn't help that this just bothers me, and people can make fun of me for saying this, but Kellen Moore just does not look like an NFL coach. He just doesn't.
This could end up backfiring in a big way, in much like a McDaniels in Miami kind of way. And I just don't know.
He just doesn't look like a guy who would hold people accountable. Like he just doesn't look like the big boss in the room. Like
we're used to a guy in New Orleans by the name of Sean Payton being that guy.
Exactly. So. Yeah. And as we talked about with Miami, guys that don't really have respect and
can't hold a room right.
That's things fall apart. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe he does, but just I mean, we've never seen him coach, but just watching him on sidelines and stuff, and just seeing his demeanor, I just do not see that at all. So, I mean, hopefully for his sake, the owners are patient and they let him go through this year and give him another year, because I think this year is going to be a disaster. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do in the offseason. They're finally doing a rebuild, which they should have done as soon as Drew Brees was out of the door. But I think they're going to be so bad this year, they should just get rid of all the veterans after this year, and just do full on clean slate.
Right. I totally agree with that. They're one of the oldest rosters in the league, and Kellen Moore is only a few years older than some of the players. So
and he might be the best quarterback on the roster too.
Right. Definitely remember seeing him at Boise State, and but yeah, he's definitely a pass first guy. He's a great offensive coordinator, but I don't know what he's going to be able to do with Tyler Shough or anybody else in this QB room. He might as well just suit up himself. Where do you see in the lineup for the Saints?
I checked a little bit ago. I checked somewhere. It said 5.5. Is it really 5.5? Or are you seeing something different?
I am seeing 4.5.
Okay, 5.5. Under all the way. 4.5. I'm still probably thinking under. Probably 4.5 too. Yeah.
I think this will be a 3-win team. One of those.
Yeah, I mean they'll find a way to win a couple games. They're not historically bad, but they're bad, and I don't see 4.5. I would still feel pretty comfortable going with the under here. That's a good example. I mean, the Derek Carr thing is a great example. They went 5-5 with him and 0-7 without him, and not much has changed other than your quarterback's either going to be a guy who contributed to that 0-7 or an injury-prone 26-year-old rookie. So,
yeah. Plus, if I'm getting plus value on the under with the Saints at plus 110, it's an easy pick for me. Do you have the same division standings prediction as I do? I've got Bucs, Falcons, Panthers, Saints.
So that's what it was last year too. That's why I'm thinking like, I mean, yeah, that's the obvious one. The change would be at the top if the Bucs regress just a bit and the Falcons, like you said, 9 wins could win this division, and the Falcons are certainly capable of winning 9 or 10 games this year. So I'm still I'm gonna go with what you did. But if I had to change, if I was forced to change something, that's what I would do. I would flip 1 and 2.
Yeah, yeah. I think Buccaneers, just their consistency at the top will continue. I trust them more
Especially
than
if you're getting
any
plus.
team.
I checked; they're getting plus money. It's plus 100. Well, plus money, but plus 100.
Right there.
Which I pretty good value in my opinion. Falcons are
Yeah.
plus 210, Panthers plus 410, which is pretty generous in my opinion, and Saints plus 1300. So yeah, for me it's definitely a 2-team race for this division.
Yep, I've got the Bucs winning and being the only playoff team to come from this division. What do we got as far as fantasy football in our fantasy football focus?
Yep. So obviously mentioned him earlier. Some people are taking him number 1. He's mostly number 2 or number 3 on fantasy draft boards. Bijan Robinson, he had his awaited breakout year last year. Started off a little bit slow, but then he took off, and he finally proved why he deserved to be a top 10 fantasy pick, and now that's why he's a top 3 fantasy pick. So I have a few stayaways in this division. I'm not going to go through these teams in detail, but Falcons pass catchers, including Drake London. I mean, obviously, if Drake London's falling, take him. Like, he's projected late second round, early third round, but if he's falling, take him because that's good value. But the Falcons were a heavy run team last year, very heavy run team with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. Yeah. And with an unproven quarterback, you just don't know how much he's going to throw it. Do not fall in the Kyle Pitts hype train again. If you still do, may God have mercy on you.
We do every year.
Yeah. Yeah, just please don't. And as for the Buccaneers, it's interesting. Mike Evans has been Mr. Consistent for so long, and you just wonder how long it's going to last. Can he do it again? I last I checked, he was slotted like the 29th best player available. To me, that's just it's risky. He's getting up there in age. I know Baker loves him. Baker loves targeting him. And if Chris Godwin's hurt again, then yeah, obviously his value goes up. But he's kind of stay away-ish for me too. Kamara is the other guy I want to talk about. He's kind of similar to Mike Evans. He's high risk, but he's high reward. He was still he's always been a pass catching back. Like, he's never had a 1,000-yard rushing year in his career, which is pretty amazing considering how he was a star for a few years. But he's like Carr and whoever was playing quarterback still threw the ball a lot to him. And I still think you can get good value for him. He is 30 now, but I think he's worth a flyer. And he's seated about around the 50s range. I would take him in that range just because, yeah, you get more points for catching passes, which is why he was such a good fantasy back. Sleepers, I don't know if I call them sleepers. This is just always my strategy. Always take if you draft Bijan Robinson or Bucky Irving high in later rounds, always take their backups for insurance purposes in case they go down. Tyler Algier and Rachaad White. Have them. Hope you never have to use them, but it's always good to have them. So yeah, that's what it's my focus. Fantasy football focus. Didn't really address the Panthers. I don't really have too much opinions on them. Chuba Hubbard's about slotted where he's supposed to be, and McMillan's obviously the interesting one. Like, he could have a pretty good rookie year and become one of the next rookie fantasy legends with like the history of Justin Jefferson and Puka Nacua and that. But I don't know, with Bryce Young as quarterback, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, I definitely see, like, if you were going to go with players in this division, Baker, first one, but then the running backs, because I think with these young QBs, with these unproven QBs, we could see the run game heavily with the teams in this division. So you could get, just based on sheer volume with these guys. before we move on to our SEC preview, if you are listening on YouTube, definitely make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel at KL Sports Huddle. We're slowly growing the best we can, so any help is appreciated. If you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and follow us, give us a rating and a review. And we're also on Instagram. Go follow us there at Huddle KL Sports. You can see some of our content in short snippets, as well as any breaking news in the sports world. All right. Transition to college football here. We did our Big Ten preview last week, taking on the other super conference as they're building up towards with these two in the SEC. So first, I think this will be, as it has been for many years now, the deepest conference in college football. Got so many teams already in the top 25 to start the season.
10.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost half the teams in the top 25 are from the SEC. So when you're looking at who are the teams that are going to make the playoff, I think this could be 4, potentially 5 come from this conference. I mean, you're looking at Texas, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and then outside of those 4, there could be somebody like Florida or South Carolina. I mean, Texas A&M is looking pretty good right now. Ole Miss lost a lot, so I don't know if I'd go that way. And obviously Tennessee with the whole Nico situation and them not having him anymore. We'll see what transpires at QB. But to me, just looking at the teams, LSU is probably the most intriguing out of all of them. Brian Kelly, as the head coach, had to hurt to watch his former team go to the national championship last year in Notre Dame. After so many years of complaining about not being able to get the best, recruits, and Notre Dame, we have to develop here and all that, and the whole reason he went to LSU so he could play in a playoff. And to me, this is a make or break year almost for Brian Kelly at LSU. He has to make the playoffs, or fans down in Baton Rouge are going to start to let him have it.
Yeah. I think any SEC team in the top 25 is capable of making the playoffs. It's just you just see one breakthrough every year that climbs into the top 10, and then now the playoff is expanded to 14 teams now, right? Yeah. Did they go to 14? Or,
I don't know if they went to 14 yet. Oh, they did?
It's still 12. Yeah.
Well,
sure. That they would sustain a spot there. To me, the only locks are Texas and Georgia. I just don't trust. I mean, yeah, LSU and Alabama are certainly capable, and I'd say they're favored over the others behind them, but I'm not consider them a lock. I don't trust Brian Kelly. His tenure in LSU has been pretty disappointing. And Alabama, I also don't fully trust them yet either with their since Saban left. So they might change my mind this year. Alabama certainly could change my mind this year. LSU, I'll always have doubts that Brian Kelly could ever get it done. It'll always be relevant, but never be able to get it done. But 10 teams, like I said, in the top 25. I don't think it's necessary to react to preseason top 25 very much because what the games decide the results. First poll to me that matters is the college football playoff poll, which usually takes place. Is that around Halloween, or am I making that up?
Yeah, it's like a week 6 or week 7, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's the one that matters. One thing that is intriguing, though, unlike the Big Ten, I think Big Ten's super top heavy, and then there's a few teams. But, I mean, I feel like Alabama down to even unranked teams like Missouri or possibly Vanderbilt. I don't know. Vanderbilt, Missouri, Kentucky, even those teams, they're it's going to be a dogfight when they play each other. We saw that last year with Alabama and Vanderbilt. That with NIL and stuff, these teams aren't that far apart. Aren't as far apart from each other than they used to be. I think the SEC is a pretty even playing field.
Yeah.
So there's going to be, once again, some ugly records that make their way into the playoff. Teams with multiple losses in there. But by the eye test tells you that they deserve it because they look well. They just can't beat all these stacked teams week in and week out. So, I know about to go over the intriguing games coming up, but one stat I did find that's interesting to bring up is, they haven't won the title. SEC hasn't brought home the title in the last 2 years. Barely even got a team into the Final Four. Texas had to squeak by Arizona State just to make the Final Four, and they only went 8-7 in bowl games, so just barely over 500. So, not pretty disappointing results for the SEC in postseason play last year. Gave the Big Ten fans more to beat their chests on.
Yep.
That they've overtaken the SEC, and I think there is in the NIL era there might be a little bit of merit to that. But what do you see for the intriguing games? Because there's a lot.
There's a lot.
We can't name them all, but just which ones stand out to you?
Obviously, we mentioned last week the Ohio State Texas game. I'll mention that again here since that is a non-conference game. That it's quite the test for Texas and Arch Manning going on the road in the shoe. But then that same another non-conference game, LSU and Clemson. So LSU will have to go on the road against Dabo Swinney and the Tigers, and these are two of the most intriguing team. I think Clemson's going to be really good, and for LSU to go on the road, and if they could get a win there, that would be huge for their season going into SEC play. As far as the conference games that really jump out to me, I mean, Alabama, Georgia, maybe the best game all last season that took place. We get that rematch, and you mentioned not having too much trust in Alabama since Nick Saban left. I mean, Kalen DeBoer, he's got to quickly turn things around after last season missing the playoffs. They've never missed the playoff 2 years in a row, and these Crimson Tide fans have been spoiled for so many years with Nick Saban that if they don't get back to the playoff again, it's going to be a tough time for Kalen DeBoer down in Tuscaloosa. Texas at Florida is an interesting one. I kind of like that one as another road test for Arch Manning and this team. Florida's been kind of a wild card in the SEC. You never know what you're going to get from this team, and DJ Lagway's injury history has not helped that. But Florida's looking pretty high on the rankings this year, and maybe some high hopes for them.
15th. They're ranked in the preseason AP poll.
LSU at Alabama, probably the other big one for me, and then obviously Texas at Georgia. You've just got the heavy hitters at the top. Those games being played out over the course of the season are ones to definitely keep your eye on.
Yeah, another non-conference game that's interesting. This is a team we won't talk about because they're not in a conference, but A&M at Notre Dame. I believe they played each other last year, and Notre Dame won a close one in College Station. This time the A&M's coming up to South Bend. Should be an interesting game. A&M, I believe, is ranked 19th in the preseason AP poll. Notre Dame is fourth. Fourth or fifth. Fourth or sixth. Yeah. Georgia's fifth. I know. Yeah. But still, intriguing game. Another entertaining non-conference game, which I wish they would do more of. I'm glad we have Ohio State, Texas, and LSU, Clemson as well. And then, there's so many ranked versus ranked games in the SEC, so there's no point in going through them all. And a lot of the ones you mentioned, I wrote down too. I'll just name a couple that I also wrote down. Obviously, Red River rivalry, big one, Texas, Oklahoma, the Cotton Bowl. This is kind of a big year for Oklahoma too. I mean, they've kind of disappointed here in the last couple of years. So big year for them. And if Texas is still number one, of course, that'll have a lot of drama. There'll be a lot of drama in the Red River rivalry. And then two other conference games. This one's early. It's September 13th. We got Georgia at Tennessee.
Yep.
That'll be a fun one in Knoxville. It's one of the better SEC rivalries in my opinion. And then Another one is a team we haven't mentioned yet, really. They're ranked 13th is South Carolina. And on October 25th, Alabama will be traveling to South Carolina. And if you recall, that was a good game last year in Tuscaloosa that Alabama barely squeaked by. So, and if South Carolina plays up to their ranking, that should be a pretty intriguing game with playoff implications that late in October.
Yeah, Lenora Sellers, the QB for South Carolina, to me is a lock draft pick. I can't wait to watch him play this year. Yeah, the Georgia Tennessee, and it being that early in the year, September
Yeah,
13th.
pretty rare. I think it was like the first time since 2017 or something I saw that it's in September.
And I love it actually this early, because when you get it early like that, whoever comes out with the loss in that game, the fan base is going to go absolutely nuts. And it's going to be a state of crisis for whichever program loses that game. So I love that. A lot of great games in such a loaded conference. Did want to touch on Missouri for a second, because not my original take. I heard this on another podcast, but this could be a surprise college football playoff team that sneaks in because of their schedule. They avoid a lot of the heavy hitters on their schedule. They got one of the most favorable SEC schedules, so a lot of talent on that team, a lot of players coming back, and just keep your eye out for Missouri. You don't have to watch all their games. There's so much college football to watch. You probably won't catch many of their games, but definitely keep your eye on the rankings for them, as they could be one of those teams that just sneak in.
Yeah. Saturday, September 6th, we got a big one too. Georgia versus Austin Peay. Can't wait to watch that one on the SEC.
I'm surprised they're not playing them in November.
Yeah, well, let me check. I think I saw this is just Georgia. They play Charlotte in
right
November. So
SEC really needs to move to playing 9 conference games. It's getting pretty ridiculous now.
You make a good point about Missouri, because if you recall, Texas benefited from a pretty easy SEC schedule last year, and they rode that all the way to the playoffs. This year for Texas, though, they get ranked number 1, but
which is great for us, because they're going to get great games.
They go to Columbus, they go to Gainesville, and they go to Athens.
Yeah,
that's that is a rough road schedule for Texas. And
once again, Florida and Oklahoma absolutely get railroaded with their schedules. It happens for a second year in a row. It's going to be so tough for them to make it out of there alive. But yeah, that's the so give me your picks of who you think makes the playoff.
So, like I said, Texas, Georgia, they will stumble a couple times, but like we saw last year, you can stumble a couple times in the SEC and get in. So, okay, is it 12 or 14? I feel like...
well, that's the thing. I'm never for sure, because they keep debating. And
I know, and I feel like I saw that story yesterday about the Big Ten wanting to turn it to 24 or 28 teams. Which,
oh my God, I about fell out of my chair.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but so I'm not gonna,
12.
Okay, so I'm not gonna go LSU. I'm going to go the SEC gets 4 this year. Texas, Georgia, Bama, and I'm going to go South Carolina. It's going to be
like it.
There's going to be a out of the ordinary SEC team make it this year, and obviously Georgia, Bama, and Texas are the big players. But I think someone like South Carolina could sneak their way in. I do like the Missouri talk, though. I think nowadays schedule's huge.
Right,
it's huge to have a good record.
Especially
saw that with Indiana last year in the Big Ten. It really helps. But this year it's going to be a lot tougher for them. Same with Texas, but luckily they'll get the benefit of the doubt with the preseason number 1.
Yeah, I think Texas, Georgia, Bama are locks. Don't trust LSU. I think they'll slip up to some random SEC team on their schedule. That's going to really hurt them, and that they're not going to be able to come back from. Man, it's tough. They might.
I don't feel comfortable with South Carolina. I also could see all these teams just cannibalizing each other, and then they only get 3 teams in. That's also a
and
possibility.
that's part of the argument that SEC makes against the Big Ten, because it's so top heavy, and those teams are going to just get all the wins, and then the SEC's the best conference, battling it out, and
that's why
three loss teams.
That's an exact reason why they should schedule a Big Ten versus SEC series at the start of the year in non-conference play.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go Texas, Georgia, Bama, and I'm gonna go with Texas A&M. I
thought about them too.
I think they've got a good thing going in College Station. I think they sneak in. That'll be my pick for them.
If they somehow go up to South Bend and get that win, that'll
weigh heavily for them. Yeah. So I love that.
They also end the year against Texas, so that could be a big game too.
Yeah, love that rivalry. Glad we have it back because of Texas rejoining them in the same conference. Love having that rivalry back in the game. That'll close it out for us here at the K&L Sports Huddle. We will be back next week, as always, with the NFC West. But not just that, we're getting our picks in for MVP, Super Bowl, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, all the good end of year awards. We'll be getting our picks in on the betting lines for those, and then maybe we'll get in some college football talk. It will be week 1 preview. We'll pick 5-6 games that look really good for us and preview some of those games for you guys. So definitely tune in next week. We'll have a lot more football content to bring you guys. But that'll close it out for us here. I'm Gage Kiplinger. That's Logan Hubert. See you next week.